Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Mixed Martial Arts channel. We are here today for the breakdown of the Apex card that we just had tonight, which was Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Robocop Rodrigues. This was honestly quite a fun card. Very, very happy with how this went. I would be not shocked to hear the opinion that this is arguably better than UFC 312. But this card had a lot of really fun moments, a lot of really interesting finishes, some also questionable fights that we will go through. We're going to start with the main event of Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues, and I will work my way down the card and get all the way to the very last prelim fight of the night, or as it would be in the watch order, very first prelim fight of the night. As I say with every single breakdown and prediction video I make, take everything on the latter half of the video with a grain of salt. I'm going to have a lot of very knowledgeable and researched and intelligible things to say about the first half of the card, the main card, and then a couple prelims, but cut me some slack when it comes to fighters that I've only seen once or twice, or that I'm seeing for the first time tonight, if I don't have that much to say about them or know that much about them in terms of interesting facts, whereas I might be able to list off a lot more cool stuff about some of the guys higher up on the card. Anyway, we'll start with the main event of Jared Cannonier versus Gregory Rodrigues. So I just finished my fight companion for this card, and oh my god, Jared Cannonier is back. I was really thinking that this was not going to be a good night for him. I was expecting Cannonier fans around the world to be in tears, not rejoicing, but we are here rejoicing. Not to say that I am someone who is against the Cannonier, but neither am I for Cannonier. I love him, but I didn't predict him to win. Let's just say it that way. So Jared Cannonier comes out in the first round. Gregory Rodrigues puts a pace on him and a beating. Now, I didn't think anything about this in this manner at first, but I have heard since opinions from other people. A lot of people apparently were thinking about this being a 10-8 round. That may have been the truth. Judges may have scored it that way. I haven't looked at the scorecards, but I didn't even consider it like that at first. But in retrospect, I can see where they're coming from, especially with how the latter rounds looked. That was a very heavy-handed round and approach from Gregory Rodrigues early on in the fight. He dropped Cannonier twice in the round. They were not heavy knockdowns, I will say that, and I would like to give Cannonier props, because in my fight companion, as I was watching it, I said I'm predicting Gregory to win, and then once that first round started, I changed my prediction from a round 3 or 4 finish. I went, oh, he might get him in the first round here, or at least in the second round. I'm fucking quite worried for Jared Cannonier here. And I wanted to rest on my laurels and stay with the prediction I had, but I switched up a little bit and decided, like, ooh, I think this might end this round or next round, but it didn't. And after that first round, after Jared Cannonier survived the storm, goes on to the second round, Gregory Rodrigues slows right down. A lot of people were saying, whether it was the commentary or people online or the Twitter things that pop up in the corner of the screen during the fight, people were saying he's gassing out, he's running out of energy, he used everything up in that first round, and while I had considered that, I wasn't really thinking that that was how it was going. That was just something in the back of my mind, but I had and said as soon as he came out a bit slower, I said he's probably going to need a round like this. Like, if he's expecting to go 5 rounds, he probably, at the very least, if he's not going to take a round to rest, he needs to take a round to see what it's going to be like when he lets Cannonier lead. Because maybe then he could have learnt that, okay, Cannonier is going to come on hard and fast at me if I let him lead. That tells me I cannot gas out, because he will fucking go full force on me and I will not be able to survive it. But if that was the case and that was what he was hoping to learn, he would have found out that that's not actually the case. And Cannonier, while he did increase his aggressiveness and he started to control the fight and control the direction that we're walking in, he had Robocop moving backwards all the time. I feel like even if Robocop was to gas out in the later rounds, if that round 2 Cannonier was the Cannonier that we'd see trying to pressure him later in the rounds, I think Robocop could certainly survive that, even if he had gassed out. So either way, Robocop used that second round to try and gauge that, and to gauge himself, and evidently at the start of the third round it was clear that, okay, he did take that round as a break and a little bit of a gauge to kind of figure out how he wanted to play the rest of the fight. Cannonier didn't get anything too crazy off on him in that second round, but he did win it. Cannonier certainly won it with activity and whatnot. But going into the third round, Robocop picks up the pace. He starts to walk Jared down again. He's got his hands a lot lower. He looks a lot more tired and more heavy on his feet and stuff like that. But he is still controlling. And there's a difference between looking gassed and looking like you know how to fight tired. And I think to a degree, maybe not to the fullest extent, but to some degree, Gregory Rodrigues clearly knows how to fight tired. Or how to become tired in a fight and rejuvenate yourself in a round where you just take a bit of a break. So he's walking Jared down in that round, and it comes down to about 60 seconds left in the round, and he has arguably won the entire round in my opinion. I don't really see how you could score that round for Cannonier before that. And even arguably, I'll get to it in a moment, what we're about to talk about, I wouldn't even be that mad that people wouldn't give the round to Cannonier based on the end of the round. I did, and I believe the judges would have, because judges really value end of round moments. It'd be pretty tough to give it to Robocop, but I would argue that that ending sequence of the round only really evens out the round, because Cannonier essentially lost 4 minutes of that round, and then he won the last 45 seconds or whatever it was, 30 seconds. There was moments, he had okay moments in the third round. It's not like he was being attacked. Oh, sorry guys. It's not like he was being attacked and walked down and stalked the entire round the way he was in the first round, but he was not in control the way he was in the second, and he was not dealing with the output the same way he was in the second. Even though Gregory's output went down a lot, there was still a level of capability to control the fight from Cannonier, even when Gregory would have his bursts of energy and shoot a couple of combinations and stuff like that. Cannonier still controlled everything. There was a lot less of that in the third round, but there was still shades of it. So while he didn't really give anything in the third round that would make you think he won the round, he didn't make as much of an inverse between rounds 2 and 3 compared to the inverse that Robocop made between rounds 1 and 2. So that was a complete switch from Robocop. Completely changed up the game, slowed right the fuck down, let the other guy control the fight almost entirely. But between rounds 2 and 3 of Cannonier, he went from controlling it in the second round to not necessarily giving away the round in the third round, but certainly just playing it safer. And being like, okay, he's being more aggressive this round. I'm going to still try and have my moments. I'm going to try and back him up at times. I'm going to throw combinations at him and stuff, but let's not get dropped again like we did in the first round. That kind of game plan. And then the last 30 seconds comes. Jared Cannonier gets up real close. They get in the clinch, and he lands a beautiful elbow straight on the nose of Gregory Rodrigues. I don't know if it broke his nose, but he was already cut on the cheek, and then he began to bleed from his cheek and nose. I'm not sure whether it was smeared blood or whatever, but he was opened up after that. The elbow drops him, and it was, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe Jared landed that elbow at the exact same time as Gregory either tried to do something with a knee. I'm not specifically sure what it was, but Rodrigues was on one leg because he had lifted up his other knee to throw a body shot to the knee, a knee to the body or something like that, whatever it was. So he was only on one leg when he got hit with that elbow. So he was already quite off balance, but that, I believe that wouldn't have been the defining factor in the knockdown. I feel like he still would have been knocked down by that elbow, but I think it's worth noting that he was obviously on one leg, and maybe he would have been hurt by the elbow but not knocked down, or maybe the other way around. Maybe he would have been knocked down but he would have been able to withstand the impact more. Who knows? But I feel like that played a small factor into it. But anyway, once we get down to the mat, that's when Cannonier just starts laying onto him in ground and pound, and Robocop survives it. He kind of eats a lot of shots, but the referee can obviously tell the clackers have gone. There's only 10 seconds left by the time Jared's on top of him. And Robocop's just kind of defensively being sound, trying to push him off, as well as block a lot of shots coming in. He blocks some, eats a few others, and then the round ends. Jared Cannonier gets up, and we didn't know this until the post-fight interview when he explained it. But Cannonier got up and thought the fight had ended. He thought that the referee had stepped in to say, that's a stoppage, that's a TKO, the fight's over. So Cannonier gets up and goes, why is nobody cheering? Why is everybody just silent? Why was it really that bad of a finish? Am I that boring? And then they came over and told him that was the end of the round, bro. You've got to keep fighting. And he's like, oh, okay. So, fourth round comes around, and I believe that Cannonier, especially because he thought the fight was over, right? That should give us a bit of insight into the fighters can tell what the other guy feels like and how he is acting and what his, maybe not exactly what their mental state is, but watching from a camera, we have an idea of what's going on in the fight. But I believe that the other fighter that's in there with them can tell a lot about that guy's current state of affairs, like how they're feeling in that moment. And I reckon, as much as we could tell that Robocop was hurt in that last 30 seconds of that round, I think Cannonier could tell that he was essentially done because he thought the fight was over and he thought it was a stoppage. Now, that could have been exclusively just because the ref stepped in and he assumed that was what the ref was doing. But it's a bit of a mix of the two, right? Like, he made that assumption because he was in a finishing sequence of ground and pound on top of Robocop. So when they told him the round was over, the fight's not over, he probably goes, oh, okay, let me capitalize on that damage that I am very, very well aware I did to him in the last 30 seconds of that round. So it comes into the start of the fourth, and Cannonier just fucking goes balls to the wall. Like, immediately comes out swinging at Robocop, and within about 10 seconds, clips him with something hard, and Robocop backs way up to the fence. And then he gets clipped a couple more times, tries to circle out, and one more big punch straight on the fucking face of Robocop connects from Cannonier, and it drops him down to his knees. And when he's down on his knees, he's looking at the mat, both hands down on the mat, and Cannonier lands a couple more ground and pound shots, and the referee steps in. Now, the finish may be seen by some people as a little bit more boring. I did think it was kind of surprising. My reaction was, I believe, silence. Like, I literally went, oh, he's dropped down, oh my god, it's over. Okay, that came out of fucking nowhere. I thought Robocop was going to survive and maybe come back in this round. But clearly, as I just said, I think he was more hurt than we thought from the end of that third round. So, Cannonier was able to capitalize on that, and he did it well. Referee stepped in 21 seconds into the fourth round, and Jared Cannonier proves his veteran status to still be useful and worthy, and he is, while I think he is done technically, he's not done, so it's impressive for him to have been able to survive the damage and the power and output of a guy as strong as Rodrigues. He's probably one of the strongest, unranked guys. If we want to think about unranked prospects that are a problem and that we're worried about, and that finishing guys a lot in prelims and main and apex events and stuff like that, it's Robocop. I even remember after his last fight, between now and his last fight, Robocop's been a guy that a lot of people have considered to be the number 15 rank. When UFC pushes someone up into the rankings that didn't fight a ranked opponent, but they just bop into the number 15 spot. Shara Bullet had it happen when he fought, I think it was Michael Oleksiejczuk or Antonio Tricoli, whichever one of those came latest. He beat that guy, and they bumped him into the number 15 spot. So after that, oh no, it was Arman Petrosian. Sorry, it was after he knocked out Arman Petrosian. Yeah, at UFC 308. After that, they bumped him into the number 15 spot, even though he didn't fight a ranked guy. And currently, Bo Nickel has now been bumped into the number 15 or 14 spot of the rankings. He never fought a ranked opponent. Paul Craig was not ranked as far as I'm aware anymore, but he got put in the rankings. So it happens every now and then, and I feel like a lot of people were considering Robocop to be that guy that was, even though Shara got picked and now Bo Nickel's been picked, a lot of people were thinking, I feel like Robocop's the guy that you should be bopping into the rankings at the bottom level there, just based off of unranked fights, because he had a lot of unranked wins, a lot of finishes against guys that are not the worst in the division, guys that have good wins otherwise. And his only loss is to Bruno Ferreira, who is a brutal finisher, and that's not a bad guy to have a loss to, especially if it's by finish, for sure. And it was in first rounds, as all of Bruno Ferreira's finishes are, as far as I'm aware. So, as far as what comes next, Gregory Rodrigues, I'm not sure. You probably do just give him more unranked fights, obviously, but he just fought number 7. They gave him a really big hike up to number 7 Cannonier, because Cannonier had fought a lot of high-level guys, hadn't had to fight way down the rankings in a while, besides Baralho, who he lost to. So he fought down the rankings and lost brutally to that guy. So they're like, okay, now you got to fight out of the rankings at this point. We're not going to just pull you down to number 12 or something. That makes no sense. You've beat a lot of people besides the top of the ranks, but you are on a bit of a losing streak right now. We got to give you someone that's really fresh to the pool and give someone a chance at your number that you're kind of holding on to, even with a lot of losses. And that was Gregory Rodrigues. I feel like maybe someone like a Joe Pyfer or something. Pyfer's fighting Gastelum, so maybe like the winner of Pyfer versus Gastelum versus Gregory Rodrigues or something like that's fun. I'm not sure. There's probably better fights to make. But one thing I am sure about is what's next for Jared Cannonier. Now, Jared has 4 losses in the middleweight division. All 4 of those losses are ranked above him right now. He's ranked at number 7. So aside from the champion, Dricus, who he hasn't fought, out of the top 6, he's lost to 4 of them. And that is, he's also beat 1, I will point out. But that is Strickland, and it was a split decision who people arguably think he lost. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a win or loss in that regard, because people think it's a kind of an indifferent fight. And Strickland didn't want to fight Cannonier in the first place. After they fought, Strickland said he doesn't want to fight him again, for sure. Number 1, Nasruddin Imavov. Just lost to him last year. Okay. Number 2, Strickland. Just explain the situation of that one. Number 3, Khamzat. Hasn't fought him, but is due for a title shot. Number 4 is Izzy right now, I believe, who he's lost to, and it was a boring fight. No one needs to see that rematch. Number 5 is Whittaker, and that was his longest ago loss of the 4 guys that have beat him in the middleweight division. That was in 2020. So if there's going to be anyone you give Jared Cannonier a rematch against, out of the top guy, because you can't give him the only 2 guys that he hasn't lost to. You can't give him Strickland because there's no point, and they won't accept the fight. And you can't give him Khamzat because Hamzat's got a title shot coming up. So of all those other 4 people that are there, who he has lost to above him, there's no point doing Imavov. There's no point doing Izzy. You could do the Whittaker rematch eventually. Maybe not in the next fight, but maybe one fight removed for each guy. I could see that rematch coming around. If Cannonier is still fighting, again, he's almost 41. I'm not sure. But below that is Bahayo at number 6. And that was arguably his most brutal. It was his most brutal loss. So he's not going to get that rematch. And also, it was the last fight, most recent, just happened. And Baralho is arguably due for a number 1 contender fight. So none of those fights make any sense besides Whittaker, but not yet. So the fight I do think makes the most sense, because he really, even though he just beat a completely unranked guy at number 7, he doesn't deserve to fight up the rankings again yet. I think this weekend we have Brendan Allen versus Anthony Hernandez at UFC Seattle. I believe that the winner of that should fight Jared Cannonier next. I think that's a good matchup. Brendan Allen's coming off a loss to Imavov. Anthony Hernandez just had that really good win against Michel Pereira. If he gets a good performance against Brendan Allen, he's going to deserve another jump up the rankings. I think Allen is either 1 spot or 2 spots below Cannonier right now. And Hernandez, while maybe people would argue that he deserves another jump up if he has a dominant performance, the middleweight division is a really tough one right now. There's a lot of fucking title contention going on in that top 5, 6, 7. So you can't really justify Anthony Hernandez getting some crazy fight like that until someone's coming off of like a really clear loss. I don't think Izzy's going to want to fight someone like that, nor Strickland. So it's a bit of a tough one. Maybe Whittaker versus Hernandez and Allen's winner is a possible matchup, but I think it's unlikely. Whittaker's probably going to stay in that top 5 still with his next fight. And a rematch with anyone up there, maybe whoever he's fought, is probably more justified. But Cannonier needs to fight down again, but not that far down. So I think that whoever wins out of Anthony Hernandez versus Brendan Allen will be ranked at it's either 8 or 9, and Cannonier is number 7. So I think after that fight this weekend, the winner of that fights Cannonier. They do that fight, and the winner of that can likely get a fight with either a Robert Whittaker if he's coming off of another loss after his next fight. Maybe an Adesanya if Adesanya's lost another fight since then, but I doubt it. I think if Adesanya will either 1, win his next fight, or 2, retire if he loses, or 3, if he sticks around and won't want to fight someone like a Brendan Allen or a Jared Cannonier again. No one wants to really see that fight. Maybe a Hernandez, but I'm not sure. It's a bit of an iffy one there. You've got Khamzat coming off a loss. If Khamzat is to lose his title shot, I could see them doing a Cannonier, Allen, and Hernandez winner versus Khamzat. That's very possible, but they probably want Khamzat for big names in the division, not necessarily just a guy that deserves a top-level fight. Then you've got Imavov. If Imavov is to lose his title shot, then maybe. But if it's Cannonier, they've already fought, and it was brutal and recent, kind of unnecessary and weird to make Imavov fight someone again when he's just 2 fights removed after beating Allen and then Izzy. If he loses his next fight, it's a little bit ago, but it's not that long ago that he fought Cannonier. So it's an interesting one, but I definitely think Cannonier versus the winner of Hernandez and Brendan Allen is a great matchup, and it's a bit of a grappler-striker matchup. We haven't really seen Cannonier have to fight any grapplers recently. Kayo's got some good grappling, he didn't really use it though. Marvin Vettori's a bit of a grappler, but he didn't use it at all when he got brutalized, so I think this is a good matchup to put Cannonier into next. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, I know I say it often, but this time I do really mean it. We are going to get through the rest of the card quite fast. That was a 20-minute breakdown of the main event. But the rest of the card there are a lot of fights I'm genuinely going to spend about 2 minutes on. So,
are you sure about that?
Let's get straight into it with the co-main event. So, Youssef Zalal gets the win decision over Kattar. Now, I have a couple of feelings about this fight. The main thing that I'm going to be returning to the opinion of multiple times is I don't think this style works for Youssef Zalal much longer. He won this fight, okay? So first 2 rounds, he gets Kattar just missing a lot. Even though Kattar did actually land a fair few shots, he was missing at a very high percentage. Youssef Zalal was almost never there to be hit. Lots of lateral movement, constantly rolling with shots and dipping his head out of the way and stuff like that. Lots of moving around the outside, jabbing at distance. He was hitting power shots as well on Kattar, but it was a lot of distance management and stuff like that from Youssef Zalal in the first 2 rounds, and that was almost entirely what it was and exclusively what won him those 2 rounds. Third round, I gave to Kattar, and I said at the start of the round, Kattar, at this point, Zalal, I want to see someone get finished in this third round, because one or two things should happen. Either Kattar should go forward and just put balls to the wall, and you should be able to finish Zalal based on the way he's fighting right now. Or, if you can't finish Zalal, it should be because Zalal manages to finish you because you're so overextending in your attempt to be better in the third round and look for a finish. So, I wanted to see Zalal show capability of finishing because of how much Kattar was aggressively chasing, and whether he was open to counters or not isn't necessarily the point. It's the fact that he was fighting in a way that counters could be much more utilized than they were in the first 2 rounds by Zalal. And he was using counters and stuff in the first 2 rounds, but this third round opened it up to be very, very, very useful of a technique. That didn't happen. We did see Kattar come forward looking for a finish. That was how he fought in this round, and I was happy for that. But I wanted to see him finish Zalal, and because he couldn't, I wanted to see Zalal be able to counteract that technique switch up from Kattar when he changed up his game plan in that third round. But he didn't. Kattar ended up winning the third round, and as the round started to come to a close, I started to be of the opinion of, Kattar, it looks like you should have just done this in the first 2 rounds, because Zalal isn't just like backing up a lot more and then throwing counters and stuff. He just went entirely defense. Now, I don't know if that's because he knows he won the first 2 rounds and he doesn't need to make himself, put himself in bad positions to get knocked out and stuff like that in the third round when he's already won the fight. But he was almost entirely moving backwards. Everything was about defense and head movement for Zalal in the third round. And Kattar was searching for the finish but couldn't get it. He won it. He got a lot more significant strikes off. He was controlling the pace, pushing him back, throwing combinations. And like I said, it just makes me wish I saw this from Kattar earlier on in the fight. Because I don't know that Zalal would have actually combated it. I don't know if Zalal would have been able to combat it that well. Either that third round showed us that he wasn't able to combat it that well, or the third round showed us that Zalal was more than happy to just sit on defense and just press on the brakes for the last round when he knows he's won a decision, which is also kind of disappointing to see. Now, I did like what I saw from Zalal in the first 2 rounds, but I couldn't help myself but say it. Excuse the clicking of the chair. While I was watching, I don't think this works against top-level featherweight fighters. For some reason, I don't actually know why this next part I'm going to say came to my head, but it just did. I couldn't help but feel like, I bet this works at bantamweight. I don't know why. I bet this dancing a lot around the outside, maybe it's because of people like O'Malley and Sandhagen and stuff have a lot of success at bantamweight. I don't know if this dancing around the outside, doing a lot of distance management and not necessarily point fighting, because he was having pretty high levels of output. Like Zalal landed, it was only 75 strikes to be fair. It actually wasn't that high output, hey. Yeah, I don't know whether that style works that well at featherweight, and I feel like at bantamweight that'd be kind of more successful with that. Even like a Mario Batista, kind of similar. But I don't think it works any longer, is my point. Maybe it works against someone like a Cavalcanti for the time being. Maybe you can get one more win at featherweight like this. Maybe unranked featherweight fighters, obviously, it works against. But if you put Yair Rodrigues in front of Youssef Zalal, and Zalal tries to fight like that, I don't think it works at all. If you put Arnold Allen in front of Youssef Zalal and he tries to fight like that, I don't think it works at all. I just question whether Youssef Zalal is going to be able to use any of the style or technique or whatever that he used today. I don't know if that game plan is going to work against any of the high level featherweights. And he just beat Cavalcanti number 10. So he's going to be ranked in the top 10 after this fight. And I doubt they're going to make him fight down in the rankings. They'll either give him at the most like 11 or 12 while he's number 10. But more likely he's probably going to get like a number 9, number 8, number 7. So we'll see who they give him. If it's a striker, he's going to have a lot of trouble, I believe. If it's a grappler, we've seen his grappling improve, but depending on who it is, maybe if he gets like a Bryce Mitchell or something, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to do very well. We'll have to wait and see though. As for Cavalcanti, I don't know what's next for him. He's on a big skid at the moment, and he's now going to be pushed down to like number 11 or 12 in the rankings. Kind of sucky for him. And how old is Cavalcanti? He is, let's find out. He is, come on, just show me his fucking birthday. Jesus Christ. He's 36. So he's getting quite old. I don't know what's next for him. He's fought Aljo now. He's lost to Josh Emmett. He had a hand injury in his fight before that. That was against Arnold Allen. Giga Chikadze. Yeah, he lost he got his hand hurt in the, it was in the Allen fight, right, that he hurt his hand, I believe. And then the Kattar fight was very close. And then before that, it was Giga Chikadze who he beat. And that was when Giga took time off, I believe, after that. So, and before that, it was Max Holloway. So he's had a bit of a rough time as of recent, for sure. So I don't know what's next for him. However, for Youssef Zalal, like I said, they're probably going to give him a pretty high-level fight. But I'm doubtful that he's going to really be able to perform that well. So we'll see if he makes a change in his game. Perhaps he was injured or something tonight. But I'm sure a lot of fans are going to be kind of upset with his performance. While it was clean and did secure the win, he's really started to fall off in the later round. Yeah, singular, the third round, later round. So I don't know. His longevity is questionable. He is the only guy to have taken Ilya to a decision. But since then, he got cut from the UFC and has come back, had a win streak, but I'm not sure how much of a prospect. Well, he's clearly a prospect. I'm not sure how much of a dark horse comeback, kind of thing he's actually going to be able to have. So we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, moving on to the next fight. Real quickly, going to run through a couple of these because they're short. Edmen Shahbazyan versus Dylan Budka. Edmen is a finish or get finished guy. I've said this before and I'll say it again. He is basically the Terrence McKinney of the middleweight division. There is a couple of middleweight fighters that are like that, but Shahbazyan is certainly one of them. Bit of a meerkat, if you will. Arguably, that would be a very fun fight. I really want to quickly check whether that fight has actually happened before, because if it is, that's hilarious, but I don't. It was the last fight, of course. That's why I'm thinking of it. Yeah, that was the fight he just had before this fight. And they are, finisher get finished fighters. I remember that. Okay, makes more sense. So he's lost to Hernandez, Imavov, Hermanson, and Brunson. So he's had a lot of weird performances, but he's coming off of beating Dalcha Langiambula and then losing to Hernandez, knocking out AJ Dobson, then getting choked out by Gerald Mears. Oh, he lost to Mearshad, of course. I remember now. Yes, he lost to Meerschaert. I was getting confused thinking he won. Like, I don't remember that. Yeah, he got finished by Meerschaert. But now he's back with a win over Delgado Budka. So, like I said, he's a finish or get finished fighter. He's got two decisions in his entire UFC career. Actually. They're both in the UFC. His first fight in the UFC, and then a bit later on at like his fourth or fifth fight in the UFC. Oh, it's like maybe sixth fight. Yeah. I don't know what's next for him. Probably just another fun middleweight fight. Look, Delgado Budka's quite a step down, like, so it's kind of not that surprising that he beat him as early as he did. But Delgado Budka landed one significant strike to Shahbazyan's 7. So it was brutal. Just one straight right hand clipped Delgado Budka bad on the chin. He did the chicken dance herky jerky and then fell into the cage and just got pummeled and finished right then and there. So I don't know what's next for Shahbazyan. He won the Battle of the Redheads tonight, but we'll have to see if maybe they'll give him another test kind of fight and see if he can pass that, and then maybe we think about talking about some more high level stuff, maybe like a fight for a ranking or a fight to get a ranked fight after that kind of thing. So we shall see, but yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about that one. Very quick. After that, a little bit more disappointing, we had Ismael Bonfim versus Nazim Sadykhov. Now this was quite a fun fight at first. I feel like it was a weird one because Ismael was kind of winning that first round, but it was a little bit back and forth, kind of hard to say. He was certainly landing at a much higher rate, but Sadykhov looked clean still and slick. He's got really nice kicks. I really liked the amount of kicks he was mixing into his game, and it ended up being a head kick that he landed on Sadykhov, on Bonfim, right at the end of the round, right at the end of the first round, and it dropped Bonfim quite badly, and immediately Bonfim starts squinting his eye, and I think he was pouring at it as well, like oh, and it was literally the end of the round it happened. And then we go to the corners, and I'm thinking, very much like the duality of this is, you got to consider this in this way, okay? This is how I think I'm going to get a lot of people to understand how annoying this kind of is. Sadykhov goes back to his corner, Bonfim goes back to his, the doctor goes to Bonfim's corner, and as they're about to start back up the fight again, they've had their minute, the doctor's been doing his thing over in, or her thing, I don't remember, in Bonfim's corner, Sadykhov's just ready to go, and they're doing some weird talking. There was a bit of miscommunication. I don't know whether Bonfim actually did say, I can't see, or I can see, but the doctor took it as he can't see. And they called off the fight there because he was squinting out of his eye too much and whatever. The doctor believed that he couldn't see. Now, I was so excited for that second round because I thought, man, let's fucking see if there is a durability on the side of Ismael Bonfim. Let's see if he can come back from getting hurt real bad with that head kick and having his eye sore and stuff like that. Can he come back from that? I'd love to find out. Let's get fucking into this second round. And can Nazim Sadykhov keep himself composed and continue to build on that damage that he just managed to get at the end of the round? No. Doctor stops the fight. Now, the duality that I'm speaking about is you got to understand the level of annoyance of this. Because imagine if, in the Cannoneer versus Robocop fight, they just stopped it after that third round because of the cut on Robocop's cheek. Say it started pissing blood into his eye or something like that, and he's just like squinting and he can barely see out of it, and then it comes down, he's like maybe he's like I can fight or I can't fight, I'm not sure, blah blah. Doctor comes in, looks at the eye, and Cannoneer's over in his corner ready to go, and then they just go, nah, Robocop can't see, sorry, that's it. Like, we'd be like, oh, you're kidding me, bro. Like, I was really fucking excited to see whether Robocop was gonna recover or if Cannoneer was gonna finish him off. And we got to see Cannoneer have that awesome finish. We may have been robbed of seeing either A, Ismael Bonfim have a good comeback from that and maybe even win the next round or something, survive the fight, maybe goes to a decision, and then you give him props for surviving that crazy head kick, or we could have got to see Nazim Sadykhov finish that fight and actually capitalize on the damage that he caused in the last 30 seconds of the round in the first 20 seconds of the next round, just like Jared Cannonier did in the main event. So I didn't obviously think this at the time because this was the second fight of the main card versus the main event that I'm comparing it to. But post-event, this is the way I think about it, and it's kind of annoying now that you put it into that perspective. And I think you guys would agree that when you think of it like that. If that fight had been ended there with Cannonier and Robocop, obviously it's more high stakes, it's ranked, it's the main event, stuff like that, but still would have been like, bro, come on, like someone's probably going to either recover or get finished. Let's just find out what's going to happen. If you really can't see, you'll stop it in the middle of the round, or he won't be able to fight properly because he can't see and he'll lose anyway, or he'll fight through not being able to see and win, or you just, at the end of the next round, you stop it, okay? Maybe. But to stop it right then and there, it's just annoying. It upsets the fans. We don't get to see a conclusion to it. Sad, annoying, it is what it is, but good job, Nazim Sadykhov. Very much mustered himself back into the battle at the end of that round, and then landed the big nasty kick that he was kind of working his kick game into setting something up like that throughout the whole round, and then got there at the end of the fight. So good stuff from Nazim Sadykhov. Sucks for Ismael Bonfim. I believe he's lost like 4 fights in the UFC now. I think he's got a negative UFC record at this point. Let's have a quick check. Ismael Bonfim in the UFC is 2-2. He's 2-2 now. Yeah, so he beat Terrence McKinney, then lost to Benoit, then beat Vince Pichel, and now he's lost to Nazim Sadykhov. So, bit awkward. His brother's on much more of a streak than he is. It's kind of sucky, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, man. So, yeah, good job to Nazim Sadykhov, though. Okay, below that, really, first fight on the main card, got almost nothing to say about this. Rodolfo Vieira versus Andre Petroski. This is your classic, 2 grapplers decide to kickbox with one another. Kind of boring, really slow, low output. Ironically, the numbers of this fight are quite similar to the numbers of the Youssef Zalal and Cavalcanti fight. They're much more even. They are actually very even on striking numbers, but it's about 60 strikes. The Youssef Zalal landed 75. And I called that fight kind of slow at times and said that I still enjoyed it. I thought it was high paced, but it wasn't. This one was quite the opposite. It just, the big hits from both guys, big moments from both guys, but far and few between of those moments, and also just, it is what, like, Andre Petroski's fights are just not that good, man. Like, I don't think I've watched an Andre Petroski fight that I enjoyed that much. I can't even recall what his previous opponents have been. Dylan Budka, Josh Fremd, Jacob Malkoun knocked him out and finished him, and he lost to Josh Fremd before that, by decision. Beat Dylan Budka by decision. Got knocked out by Michel Pereira in the first round. Got a decision over Meerschaert before that. Got a decision over Turman. Got submitted. He got a round 1 submission there in 2022. Fucking, yeah, good on you. Got a round. Look, so he comes in the UFC. He gets a round 3 submission, round 3 KO, round 3, and then gets a decision. Then gets a round 1 submission. You're fucking 1-2, 4-0 in the UFC with 3 finishes, and then you go finished by Michel Pereira, decision over Meerschaert, decision over Budka, decision over Fremd, gets finished by Malkoun, and then loses a decision, and then wins a decision to Vieira. So he's got a weirdly good record for how kind of shitty his UFC career has been. You know, it's kind of strange. I haven't really enjoyed an Andre Petroski fight yet. I'm open to having that change, but I remember watching the last fight he had, which was against Dylan Budka, and I think I watched the Josh Fremd fight as well, and I just wasn't that entertained, man. Like, it's nothing special. Like, that Josh Fremd fight had three takedowns he got, and he threw 30 strikes, or he landed 30 strikes, sorry. In the Dylan Budka fight, he landed 3 out of 5 takedowns. He landed 80 strikes to 20, like in a 3-round decision. So it's not like no output, but it's nothing special, and he doesn't hit that hard, especially considering he's a fucking jacked guy. He's got massive legs, and he's he's built like very, very chiseled, but he doesn't fight like that. He doesn't fight as good as he looks. You know what I mean? So I hope that we can see something better from Petroski in the future, but yeah, it is what it is. Vieira looked okay at times. He threw a lot of takedown attempts, 11, landed 1 of them. They looked really sloppy by the end of the fight. He was almost barely even going for them. I was questioning whether he actually intended on those being takedowns, or if they were purely just so that Andre would consider takedowns to still be a threat and still be there. I don't know, but it is what it is. He actually outstruck Petroski overall. Obviously, it's scored on a round-by-round basis, so that changes it. And I believe Petroski won 29-28, so that would make sense. But yeah, just boring fight overall, and I don't really care. Just, yeah, whatever. Hopefully, both guys have a better fight next time. Above that, oh, I was very, very happy to see this one, man. Surprisingly, I was surprised to be happily surprised with the result of this. Conor Matthews versus Jose Delgado. Man, welcome to the fucking UFC, Jose Delgado. I feel like I should remember this Contender Series fight he had, but I don't. It was in last year's Contender Series. He got a round 2 knockout over undefeated Ernie Juarez, however you pronounce that. And then he comes in against Conor Matthews here, who has just lost to Denis Bazookia, I believe, in his UFC debut before that. Yep. And he'd been on the Contender Series before. Conor Matthews had fought on the Contender Series twice. So he lost his first Contender Series by decision, and then went out of the UFC, and then came back and won his Contender Series by decision over a 10-0 guy. But then comes in and gets knocked out by Denis Bazookia, and now he's been finished in the first round by Jose Delgado. Jose Delgado, man, I am excited to see this guy. He's 9-1 now, I believe. 9-1, 5'11", 73 inches of reach, not bad. That's a 2-inch positive reach for his height. He's 26 years old, I think I just said that. Very young, featherweight, and he is on a 6-fight win streak. So he's got one loss. It was a decision. It was quite a while ago, and it's the only decision he's been to in his career. Every other fight, he is finished. Round 1 finish in his first fight. Round 1 finish. Round 1 finish. Loses that decision. Round 3 finish. Round 1 finish. Round 3 finish. Round 1 finish. Contender Series. Round 2 finish. UFC. Round 1 finish. Really, really, really nice stuff. I like what I'm seeing, and there's a big, wide array here. We've got rear naked choke, Darce choke, strikes, which is, I couldn't tell you what that is, but left hook, knee, this one was a right hand, like it's quite an array of finishes across the board for him. So exciting fighter, to say the least. I enjoyed watching his style. It was a very short fight, so I can't talk too much about it, and I haven't seen him fight before, so this is all I've got to go off from him. He looked so happy and elated to have won that fight that I'm immediately locked in on this storyline. I want to find out the lore of Jose Delgado, that's for sure. So this guy's probably going to generate a little bit of fans for the hardcore guys that watch Apex prelims and stuff like that. This guy probably has a lot of people going, ooh, okay, I like the look of you, my friend. I remember the Contender Series fight. I don't, but some people might. I remember that Contender Series fight, and you get a round 1 knockout in your debut. I got my eye on you, fella. I got my eye on you. So, welcome to the UFC, Jose Delgado. Very excited to see him. So just as a quick rundown of what happened, it was literally, it says 3 minutes into the round, right? The striking numbers were already 20-9, so 2 out of 3 takedowns landed for Conor Matthews, but Jose got back up to his feet both times. And he just lands one beautifully clean right hand over the top of the guard, straight on the temple of Conor Matthews, and dropped him down bad, and then followed him down. I believe he got on top of him, full mount, straight away, and then just started... I hope I'm not thinking of the wrong finish here. I believe that's correct. Gets right on top of him and starts raining down elbows and shovel uppercuts, and the referee steps in. He's seen enough. Absolutely no response from Conor Matthews once he started to accept that ground and pound. Beautiful finish from Jose Delgado. Very heartfelt post-fight speech. You've got a fan, brother. I'm excited to see more from you. So congratulations and welcome to the UFC. Okay, below that, Angela Hill versus Ketlen Souza. Now, I'll very quickly go through this one. This was the better of the female fights tonight. I actually did quite enjoy this fight. Just because I'm going to go through it quickly doesn't mean it was a bad fight. The striking numbers were 103-77 in favor of Angela Hill. Now, that's interesting. There was two takedowns for Angela Hill as well. Yeah, she got Ketlen down a couple times and managed to control her for a little bit. But it was close. When it came to the decision, I was thinking, I've got a feeling this is going to be Angela Hill. I could see it going either way. I personally thought the first round went to Angela Hill. Then the second round, I was like, ooh, I feel like Ketlen got that round. She did a lot better in that third round. And then in that second round, sorry. And then the third round comes around, and it's a very close round. The third round was very close. There is possibly, it was a split decision, first of all. I'll say that. So there is probably going to be people that say robbery. I'm not going to call it a robbery because close fights aren't robberies. They're just hard to score. And this was hard to score. But I actually gave this fight to Ketlen Souza. So I could be wrong in that. I only watched the fight once. I didn't skip back and watch it at all. And I was eating while I watched it, so I apologize. But I was paying attention because it was an entertaining fight, and it was more entertaining than the first female fight, so I wanted to watch from then on. But I thought Ketlen got it. I thought that second and third round, she really turned up the pace, picked up the pace, and put much more pressure on Angela Hill, was way cleaner with her strikes, had Angela Hill missing a lot more. It says 2 out of 6 takedowns. I believe Angela got both those 2 takedowns in the first round, or maybe the second. I don't think she got one in the third. And then those 4 missed takedowns were in the second and third round, where Ketlen got way more wise to the takedown attempts of Angela Hill. And if she did get one of those takedowns later in the second and third round, she didn't do anything with it. I believe she did get on top of Souza for a little bit in that first round, but that was the only time she actually made use of the grappling. So then in the later rounds, I'm thinking Souza's kind of building here, doing quite well. I had it 1-1 going into the third, and that third round was very, very close. And I'm going to guess that's the round that the judges gave either way, where one judge gave the fight to Ketlen Souza. I also gave it to Ketlen Souza, but it is what it is. It was an entertaining fight nonetheless. Angela Hill is 40, and she's a female fighter, and she's fighting at strawweight, and her record is 18-14. It's unfortunate that Ketlen Souza gets kind of put in a little bit of a stop to her streak from a fight like that. This is the first split decision Angela Hill's ever won. She's been on the end of a lot of split decisions that didn't go her way. So it is what it is. I'm not too mad. I literally said after the third round, I'm not going to be mad if this goes the other way, because I think it will go the other way. And then when they announced split decision, I was like, maybe they give it to Souza here, but I don't know. And then, yeah, they gave it to Angela Hill. So is what it is. Good fight from both girls, though. I've got my eye on Ketlen Souza. I like what I saw from her. She looked like she'd improved a bit from her last fight as well. Obviously, she got a finish in her last fight and did well, but there is things that she said that she's made improvements on, such as cardio, and if it's not cardio, looking less tired in the fights, and she didn't look tired at all. She looked very clean all the way to the end of the fight this time. So I enjoyed that, and yeah, good job to Angela Hill. I don't know how much longer she's going to stick around in the UFC, but fair enough. She got a win bonus there. Ketlen Souza, better luck next time. Hopefully you can put on another big performance against whoever they put you up against next. Okay, next up we had Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar. Now this fight was a little bit annoying to watch. So Rafael Estevam coming off of a bit of a layoff. He's been gone for about a year and a half almost. Coming back from, I believe they said he had a tumor that was really affecting his ability to fight. So that's kind of crazy. But he had that surgically removed and fixed up. And he came back against Jesus Aguilar tonight. First 2 rounds, I really liked what I saw from Rafael, but I had a lot of complaints. Really quickly, just to run through them. He was doing really well with his grappling. I think he got more than 3 minutes of control time in both of the first 2 rounds. But he was just making so many mistakes when it came to possible finishes that were almost presenting themselves to him. Now, I'll admit, he actually got out of a couple of really tight guillotines from Jesus Aguilar, so that was pretty impressive for him to do, and I liked his submission defense that I saw. But there was maybe 5 or more occasions where Rafael, got onto the back of Jesus Aguilar. And because Jesus is 5'4" or something like that, and Rafael is, I think it was 5'9", big height disadvantage for Jesus, and he would just, every time that Rafael would try and jump on his back, Jesus would just dip down and just put his butt up in the air and put his head down towards the mat, and it would make Rafael fall off the top every time. And it's because he never had hooks in. Every single time he tried to get on the back, he would focus on getting his arms over the shoulders into the neck area, not necessarily to cinch in a choke, but to look for the control of that top half. And both of his legs would just be out the back floating without anything locked in. I think it happened in all 3 rounds, to be honest, but it was certainly an issue in the first 2 rounds where Rafael was winning the fight and still making those mistakes, not just in the last round that he didn't win. So I still liked what I saw from him at times. His striking definitely could do with some work, but it wasn't the worst. Now, he is at flyweight, so you're going to have to deal with a lot of high-volume strikers and very, very technical strikers in that division, which Jesus Aguilar isn't necessarily. So this isn't a great fight to have a lack of striking prowess shown in, but here's what it is. He gets the win, gets it done. The thing I was most sad about was just Jesus Aguilar got so aggressive in the 3rd round, and this is kind of similar to what fight happened earlier on in the night that was like this. It was like Kattar versus Zalal. It was just like Kattar versus Youssef Zalal, where after winning the first 2 rounds, or losing the first 2 rounds, Jesus Aguilar decided, fuck it, now I got to go balls to the wall because I need to finish to win. Obviously, I can't win on the scorecards. And he won the round very convincingly and defended multiple takedowns from Rafael Estevam. Rafael landed 11 of 19 takedowns. Now, that may sound like a lot, but that means that Jesus got up like 10 times. And he did. He got up like 10 times. And Jesus landed 2 of 5 takedowns of his own. The biggest mistake that Jesus made in that third round was he was having so much success with the striking. There was just not the same level of ability from Estevam as there was from Aguilar, with the ability to land nice shots and put together combinations. And Jesus just kept diving for a takedown. Like, he would land like 2 really nice shots and then shoot for a takedown. It's like, dude, stop. You've got him up against the cage. You've got him hurt. Just keep pounding these fucking shots at him, please. Stop shooting these takedowns. But he was insistent. He really wanted these takedowns and kept shooting for them. Towards the end of the round, he kind of realized his mistake and started to stop and started to just focus on the striking. It was like maybe the last half of the round he did that. But then at the very last part of the round, maybe 45 seconds left, he decides to commit to a takedown again on Rafael Estevam and ends up on bottom. I think he tried to jump a guillotine again. He jumped like 3 or 4 guillotines in this fight because he likes to do it. It's a move of his. And it just got him stuck back in the position that Estevam had him caught in the first 2 rounds over and over again, which is being in half guard and full guard, in control with Jesus Aguilar on his back. So I think he threw away his ability to search for a finish there by, one, engaging in the takedown attempts way too often in that third round, and then ending up going for his own takedown to the fullest extent, and then deciding to turn it into a guillotine attempt and jumping it and ending up on his back. It was unfortunate, is what it is. Jesus, better luck next time. I did still like what I saw from Rafael Estevam, but I think he's got a lot of improvements to make. How old is he? Because he's 13-0 now, and he's in the UFC with 2 wins under his belt. He's beaten Charles Johnson, which is by decision, which is a win that has aged quite well since that fight, because Charles Johnson's been on a bit of a streak since then. Can you show me his tapology, brother? Jesus Christ. I just want to know how old the cunt is. He is 28. So you got time. Make some improvements, please, brother. You really need them, because striking like that, you're going to lose in this division for sure. But good job, and welcome back to the UFC. Hopefully we can see some improvements next time. Below that, so we had the better, arguably, as I will say, of the Bonfim brothers. I don't think Gabriel Bonfim has lost in the UFC, and I could be wrong in that, but I feel like that's true. Yeah. So he beat Ange Lusa in his first fight, and now he's beaten Khaos Williams in his second fight. He's 17-1, so his brother's 20-5. He has lost in the UFC. He's got 1, so he actually came in undefeated. I think, to be fair, I think they both came in undefeated. Oh no, sorry. Allow me to correct myself. His brother had 2 losses early in his career and then was on a really long streak since then. He lost to Nicolas Dalby. Gabriel Bonfim did. So he comes into UFC after winning on the Contender Series. Round 1 finish, gets finished in the second round, then wins a decision, and then gets a second round finish again over Khaos Williams here. So this was an interesting one. Khaos was just being forced into missing. This is another one of those instances where the striking was there and the power was there for Khaos Williams, but God was the head movement and the lateral movement and the distance management for Bonfim very on point. Khaos was swinging at fresh air a lot. Bonfim landed 35 out of 72 strikes. Ketlen landed 23 out of 94. So he threw 20 more strikes than Bonfim and landed almost 15 less. 10 less. 12 less to be exact. Made him miss a shit ton. 48% landing to 24.5%. Literally half of the accuracy rate of Gabriel Bonfim. 4 takedowns as well for Gabriel Bonfim in this fight. He got a few of those and made good work of his time on the ground. And Williams was just swinging heavily. And when he would connect, he'd connect well, but not enough. Bonfim was just slick with it. And when he also, I'll say the same thing, when Bonfim connected, it was nice. And he was hitting him with good stuff. And then in the second round, towards the end of the round, Bonfim gets him down on the ground and gets him in I think it was a Von Flue choke, no? I don't know exactly what it was. Maybe it was just a head and arm or something like that. I can't remember, actually. I really can't remember, so I apologize for that. But gets him down on the mat and puts him into a choke, and the round is getting very close to ending. There's like 5-6 seconds left in the round while he's squeezing. And there's a bit of movement from Khaos Williams still. Just a little bit. Just like, small twitchy stuff that's like my hands are moving around a little bit, my legs. And all of a sudden, he doesn't drop, but he stops moving. And the referee says, I need to see something from you. Give me a sign that you're here. And I'm like, I think he's asleep. I didn't say it, but in my mind, right before this next part happened, I'm like, he's either not moving anymore to like stay still and let himself like not squeeze any more energy and air out of him to survive to the bell, or he's out. And as the referee says, I need to see some movement from you. Let me know that you're still here. Bonfim just lets go and stands up. And it's like, what was he? Oh, he's asleep. Khaos is asleep. He's just laying on the mat. Mouth open, mouth guard fucking almost popping out of his face, asleep. And Bonfim had got it done. So, literally, right as I was thinking, that guy could be asleep, right? He just dropped him. The referee didn't even tap him like, he's out. Bonfim could tell. He's like, this guy's asleep. I'm dropping him. Like, I don't need to sit here. The round's going to end. And maybe, I will say, maybe from Bonfim, that's either accidental or not. Maybe it was accidental. But if it was still very either, if it was accidental, lucky, or if it was on purpose, smart. Because if he didn't let go of that choke, there is a possibility. I don't think it would have happened in hindsight because Khaos was asleep for like a good 10 seconds after that. He didn't just wake up immediately. But there would be the risk of Bonfim holding onto that choke until the round ends because the referee didn't stop him. And the referee being like, round's over, stop. Gets up. Guy's asleep on the mat. Oh, fight's over. Or gets up. Guy is asleep when he lets him go and just goes, wakes up and just stands up, walks back to his corner. And the referee might be like, I don't think I can call that a finish. Because the guy woke up. The round ended. Dude woke up and went back to his corner. That kind of sucks for you. On to the third round. But that didn't happen because Bonfim was either lucky enough or smart enough to let go of the guy because he knew he was limp. You can tell when a guy goes to sleep inside of a choke. Knew he was limp and just let go. It was okay, cool, done, sweet, I won. Walks away, gets a finish. So good shit to Gabriel Bonfim. I'm excited to see his next fight, more so than I'm excited to see his brother, unfortunately. But he's exciting. I like him. I like what I've seen from him so far. So good job, Gabriel Bonfim. RIP Khaos Williams. Okay, third fight down from the bottom. Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Vince Morales is the guy that lost to Taylor Lapulus in UFC Paris last time around. He is indeed. He's been in the UFC for quite a while at this point. He's got a lot of wins, a couple of losses. But this was a fucking fun fight, man. So there was 2 takedowns for Vince Morales and 3 takedowns for Elijah Smith. Now, the striking numbers are only 42 to 52. Both guys landing at about 47% of their strikes. But that is not the full story. Because this was very much, even though Elijah is primarily a striker and a counter striker at that, Morales is somewhat of a striker too, but I believe he might be a bit of a mixture of the two. He's kind of a fighter of all types. First 2 rounds, I'm not going to talk about the scoring per rounds because I've forgotten. I watched this fight very early in the morning. Like, I just woke up. And this was like the third fight, but the first 2 I watched on high speed, and then it was an early submission. This was awesome. The grappling sequences in this fight were really entertaining. Watching this fight woke me up because I was in bed watching my phone, the first few fights, just like getting ready to come and start the stream. And the grappling exchange of this fight literally had me, instead of laying there with my phone on a pillow in front of me, I was like, oh, okay, let me fucking sit up and watch this. Holy shit, I gotta pay attention. Because this fight had so many good scrambles. I wish I could actually talk about what happened. But because 1, there was so many good moments, it's difficult. Because 2, there were so many moments that were similar, of just like scrambles and hard to even commentate if I was watching it, and let alone recalling it at a later time. and 3, I was tired, so half asleep when I watched it. But don't get it twisted. I still saw the fight, and I still knew how it went. Elijah Smith did get this fight. There was I forgot to read it out. Yeah, I was about to say there was multiple submission attempts for Vince Morales, to be specific, 3. There was one for Elijah Smith as well, but 3 for Vince Morales, and they were close. They were close. There was I believe specifically, a guillotine and a head and arm choke. Could be wrong on that. I apologize if I am. But I believe it was a guillotine and a head and arm choke, were 2 of those for Vince Morales, that Elijah Smith was close in, like really deep in. And I thought, the fight is over at this point. He's not asleep, but I don't know how the fuck he's getting out of it. And just through pure scramble ability and fighting hands and getting the right angles and giving yourself a bit of air, a bit of a gap around the neck to breathe, Elijah Smith survived. I am very impressed with Elijah Smith's defensive and offensive, but specifically defensive grappling and submission defense ability. Very impressive for a guy that's primarily a striker. And he's 22 years old, and he's now 8-1. I really like what I saw. I really did like what I saw. So congratulations to Elijah Smith. I wish I could talk more about the fight. Sorry, guys. But like I said, it was hard to remember what happened in these exchanges because it was just so many scrambly wrestling exchanges, essentially, and jiu-jitsu submission roll-arounds, trying to free up limbs and trying to produce air pockets within chokes and stuff like that. So hard to recall everything, but I'd recommend you go back and watch this fight. This was one of the better fights of the night. So good shit to Elijah Smith. And Vince Morales has made me more interested in his career by showing off his durability and capability in this fight. I really enjoyed it. But Elijah Smith, I'm sure he's going to get a big fight next time. So congratulations. Okay, just below that, I literally got almost nothing to say about this. Don'Tale Mayes versus Valter Walker. Just exactly the same as Valter Walker got Junior Tafa in his last fight. He got a heel hook in round 1. Also in like the first couple minutes of this fight. I want to see quickly how short the fight was. There was 5 seconds left in that fight with Junior Tafa when he submitted to that thing. That's why it was a bit questionable. Because Tafa didn't tap. He screamed and he yelled out, and the referee stopped it. And there was only 5 seconds left. Technically, though, according to the rules, I believe I was contesting this loss as well when it happened. But I believe that is a tap. I believe screaming out loud is a verbal tap to a degree. I don't know if it's really followed all that well, like whether they actually honor that rule all the time. Like, you've definitely heard people scream. Like, Tony was screaming his head off in the either Oliveira or Dariush fight, right? Where he was getting his fucking limbs torn apart, but they didn't stop that. So, questionable, but still. He got Junior Tafa with a heel hook there in the first round. Only a minute and 17 seconds into this one, gets Don'Tale Mayes down on the mat, sticks him in a heel hook. Don'Tale Mayes tries to, in response, roll around a bit, fails to get free, and then goes, fuck it, I'm going to grab your heel and go for a heel hook on you. And right as he goes to grab it, kind of starts setting it up, and then just Valter's obviously much, much further along in the setup and the alignment of the heel hook, and then starting to go, all right, I'm in position, now crank on the heel, and Don'Tale Mayes wasn't far enough in his setup of the heel hook if he was ever going to get there in the first place, to be honest. Kind of hard to attack heel hooks with heel hooks. It works, but not always, especially if you're not specifically a jiu-jitsu guy that is used to that kind of thing. Valter Walker seems like he's very used to these kind of submissions. Very, very quick, just after Don'Tale Mayes tried to attack the heel hook, tapped. Just like, that's it, I'm done, son. And the referee comes in, steps in, says, that's enough. And that's all I've really got to say about it. Like, I don't really like Valter Walker as a fighter that much. He's kind of shit. He lost to Lucas Brzeski by decision. That's a bad loss to have, but he's got it. It is what it is. But yeah, sure. Good job, Valter Walker, I guess. Last fight on the card, or technically the first fight on the card, we had Julia Avila versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Like I said, this was the worst of the 2 female fights. Angela Hill versus Ketlen Souza was definitely better. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't the greatest. It was just Jacqueline Cavalcanti being better than Julia Avila. Not that entertaining, not that high of an output. It was 75 strikes of 200 for Cavalcanti, so she did land a decent amount, but she threw 200 and landed 37%. Julia Avila actually had 39% landing rate. She landed a lot more of Her strikes, 57 out of 145. Still landed less overall, so that's obviously why she lost, but her accuracy was up. Cavalcanti was just throwing enough to outdo her. And did. I believe there was a couple of grappling exchanges in moments of the fight, but they didn't last very long. Pretty much just, all I'm going to say is in every area, it just seemed like Cavalcanti was just a step above. Not in the finishing capabilities, clearly, because we didn't get a finish. But aside from that, just fighting prowess and technique and ability overall, Cavalcanti just seemed better. So she got the win over by decision. Lots of good striking and distance management, making Julia Avila miss a lot, which is funny for me to say because Julia had better accuracy than Cavalcanti, but she was making her miss a lot, and that's why she landed so many. She landed like 20 less strikes. 20? Yeah, 20 less strikes than her. So it was a significant difference in the striking ability. Whether it was accuracy based or not, there was a big gap there, and that's where Cavalcanti won the majority of the fight. And the power, I'll say. Cavalcanti was definitely hitting the much harder strikes on Julia Avila, and that's pretty much the story of the fight. So, yeah, good job to Jacqueline Cavalcanti, I guess. And that is going to be the end of this breakdown, guys. Guess what? I did it again. I said, I promise you I promise this time it's gonna be faster. I'll do the main event for a long time, and then I'll get to the rest of the card nice and quick. This video is over an hour long, so what fucking ever. I gotta stop saying it. I gotta stop starting the videos like, I promise I'll get through this one quicker than I did last time, because they always end up either longer or just as long as the last one was. So whatever. This is surprising though, because this is an Apex breakdown, and the last Apex breakdown I did, I think, was like 40 minutes, the Dern versus Rebus 2. So I don't know. I guess I watched every fight on this card, and I guess there was something to say about every fight, and there wasn't many fights that I didn't know like at all in this card. Whereas, like from memory, let me just really quickly look at Dern versus Rebus. There was, I believe, a couple of fights in that I had almost nothing to say about. So in the prelims, Moises versus Ogden, I had almost nothing to say about. Ernesta Karaskate versus Nicole Kalarai. I'm butchering those names, but I had almost nothing to say about that. Magomed Gadjulov versus Bruno Lopez was really boring. Fatima Klein versus Dudikova, I think I said a little bit about, but didn't really care. And Nurullo Alia versus Joe Selecki was also quite boring. So yeah, there was some kind of shitty fights on the bottom of that pay-per-view, on the bottom of that Apex card. Whereas this one, the prelims were very fun. Like, I enjoyed the Jose Delgado finish. The Angela Hill versus Ketlen Souza fight was very fun. Estevam versus Aguilar was annoying at times, but I had a lot to say about it. Bonfim versus Khaos Williams was cool and a good finish to discuss. Vince Morales versus Elijah Smith was very entertaining and very fun, and lots of things to discuss. Don Tomei's Volta Walker, not so much. And Julia Avila versus Cavalcanti, not so much. But that's just the last two fights. So, guys, I hope you did enjoy this breakdown. Be sure to check out the Fight Companion to watch any of my reactions. There'll be chapters. I only watched like 4 or 5 of the fights. I'll tell you right now. On that Fight Companion, so I watched the co-main and main event live. Kattar versus Zalal and Cannoneer versus Rodrigues. And then after that, I went back and watched 3 fights. I watched Shahbazyan versus Budka. And that was a very short finish, so I decided to watch more after that. And I watched Gabriel Bonfim versus Khaos Williams. And then I watched Rafael Estevam versus Jesus Aguilar on there as well. I believe those are the 2 that I watched there, so yeah. And then the rest of them I did not watch. But that's 5 fights there that I watched on that card. So if you want to go and check my reactions to that, please, by all means, do so. And if you want to join me for next week's card, it is going to be a banger. Okay, keep an eye out for the prediction video coming out for it as well, because this is a card with a lot of big names on it. Cejudo versus Song. We've got Henry Cejudo, Song Yadong, Brendan Allen, Anthony Hernandez, Gene Silver's fighting Melsik Bagdasarian, Alonzo Manafield's on the main card, Andre Philly, Kutalaba versus Arslan is dope. Nozilton Ruzaboev is back. Ricky Simone and Javid Basharat. Modestas Bakauskas and Rafael Kaketa. Very, very nice fight night. It's in an arena, so I'm guessing that's the reason it's a much nicer one compared to an Apex card. But we'll see how good it is, obviously. 'Cause sometimes we see these Apex cards surprise us, even though they look dog shit, they end up being kind of fun. We shall see. But be sure to join me for that Fight Companion, as well as look out for the prediction video coming for it. I'd love to have you guys there. I'll be there for a majority of that card, because there's a lot of really fun fights that I'd like to discuss. But that is going to be it for today. please let me know in the comments, what was your favorite fight on this card, and do you have anything that you disagree or agree with that I had to discuss about any fight in particular? Maybe something you think I missed, or something that you think I was a little bit wrong about, or that my take was a little bit unresearched, or that I said something that was a little bit out of line and didn't have a lot of backing. Let me know. I'd love to hear it. Good and bad. What's the word? Feedback is always helpful, and it boosts interaction in the comments. Gives me, I respond to almost every comment. Come and talk to you guys. It's very fun. I love chatting with the comment section. So please let me know what you guys thought of the video. Leave a like, subscribe, chuck a notification so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. You'll be notified half an hour before the live stream starts and when the live stream starts, so that you don't miss it. And thank you guys for being here. So I'll see you guys all in the next mixed martial arts video. Goodbye.